God, it's fun to be a drummer. Good evening, everybody. Welcome. We're here tonight to do two things. By the way, my name is Bill Hutchman. I'm with the President's Band Club. We're here to recognize and thank two legendary pillars of our community who are both legendarily modest and humble. So it was a challenge to get them to be okay with this, but we really am glad that they decided to let us do this for them. The second thing we're trying to accomplish tonight is we're trying to build a financial perpetual motion engine to support future legends for generations to come in our music program. And we're off to a really good start. We're partnering with everybody here tonight, so thank you for your partnership in this. We're working with the Marion Community Foundation, and we're off to a rip-roaring start. So thank you all for being here. So let's get this party started. I would like to introduce to you someone that I've gotten to know pretty well in the last several months. The leader of our school district, our superintendent, Mr. Brian Murphy, is also a very staunch supporter of music and arts education, and we'll let you start us off.
All right, good evening, everyone. First of all, it's an absolute honor to be here with you tonight at Harding High School, home of so much tradition, talent, and pride which exists all over this room. As superintendent of Marion City Schools, I have the distinct privilege of welcoming you to an extraordinary celebration tonight, one that spans 50 years of legacy, leadership, and love for students. Tonight, we gather not just to recognize two remarkable educators, but to honor a movement that shaped lives of students, the impact of Baird and Don Wolfe. Though I didn't personally know Rick or Don, I was a graduate of class of 1992, so I was here at Harding during their tenure of, I think they're going on 50 plus years now, working with our kids here. During their time here, historic time, the evidence of their influence in Marion is everywhere in Marion City Schools. It lives in the music, it lives in the memories, the mentorship, and in the legacy that continues to echo throughout the halls of Harding High School. To the alumni who returned here this evening from near or from far to perform, to celebrate, to say thank you, you are a living tribute to the impact, the power of what these two educators did for you and the students here at Harding High School. To the parents, the colleagues, the students, your presence here reminds us of what happens in the classrooms, in rehearsal rooms, and that truly matters. Baird and Don Wolfe do more than just teach music. They build excellence. They believe in high standards. And they believe in the endless potential of the young people here in Marion and Marion City Schools. They teach discipline. They teach creativity. They teach leadership in our young people and how to turn passion of what they do into a performance. They give their students not just the tools to perform, but the confidence to lead, to collaborate, and to chase dreams beyond just Marion and Marion City Schools. Their legacy isn't measured in trophies, and I know there's hundreds of trophies in this buildings that they have led students to earn over the years. Their legacy is measured in people, the people that are in this room, the students who become teachers, those that have become doctors, entrepreneurs, and many that are parents today. carrying with them the lessons and the values they first learned through music. What's most powerful is this: even after retirement, well, semi-retirement, I think, their influence has never retired. They continue to serve students here at Harding High School. The bands still play, the lessons still resonate, and the pride still marches on at Harding High School because of their leadership. And tonight, we get to witness just how far that legacy has reached. On behalf of Marion City Schools and the superintendent, thank you, Rick Baird and Don Wolfe. You have shaped generations in this community. You have lifted our district, and you have shown us what it means to lead with heart, with purpose, and especially with music. To everyone here that has decided to join us tonight, thank you for helping us honor these two incredible individuals, to the contribution that they have provided to the people in this room, to Marion City Schools, and to Marion County. We are proud, we are very grateful, and finally, most of all of us in this room, we are Marion made. I'm a proud graduate of Marion High School class of 1992. I know most of you have various years. Yes, that ages me a bit. I'm 51, but it's just a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to be a part of this. And again, thank you, Don and Rick, for the service that you provided to the students over the last 50 years in Marion City Schools. Thank you.
Aged himself. Rick Baird called me on a rotary phone to tell me when practice started. So I said I was a drummer, right? And Keith is sitting behind the drum kit right now. Keith, everybody say hi to Keith. Keith and I had the distinct honor of being Mr. Baird's first Stardusters drummers in 1984, Brian. 7 years prior? Anyway. For those of you that don't know much about drummers, when we're adolescents, we are testosterone-riddled animals. And, I remember a lot of things about school. I certainly remember a lot of things, but I can tell you that I learned how to play and work with other people. I learned about setting goals, creating a plan, working that plan. I was taught how to deal with the potholes and the obstacles, to go around them, through them, under them, over them, and to do it with a positive attitude through adversity because of what Rick and Don taught me as a participant in this program. So I guess the third thing I want to accomplish tonight is just to reiterate, why is music education so important? Because these are the things that we learn. So, along those lines, this is the poster child for adolescent drummers. I remember Rick told me, "You're like my grandma's gas stove with a knob that has two settings, high and off." So thank you for being patient and teaching me how to accomplish some things. And on a side note, 35 years ago this weekend, Rick Baird played the trumpet at Carrie, say hi, Carrie. Carrie and my wedding at St. Mary's 35 years ago, and it was just as hot. So happy anniversary. So, we have an alumni band for Stardusters. Rick Baird, walk this way.
normally I'd run around with a handheld, but there's too many people up here. Okay, this one's called Night Train. We're going to kick it back a little bit. Features Addie Baird on the trumpet. Side note, she added a 0 today.
I guess we should let him sit down first. So our next speaker, huge supporter of music education in city schools, big supporter, really huge. Also proof that very powerful and big things come in small packages. Carol Bebout was the principal when my kids were here, so come on up here, Carol, and let's all give her a big welcome.
I am so excited to be here. When I click my heels together and say there's no place like home, I wake up here in the hallway. I am a proud 1971 graduate of Harding High School, and I was a member of the marching band. My brother Kevin, his son Brett, and my son Steve were in the band, and Steve was under the direction of Rick and Don. Thank you.
sure everybody
Okay.
hears you.
Like my family, many families here have a deep history with the Harding Band. As a teacher, as a parent, and then as assistant principal and principal of Harding, I spent a lot of time with Rick and Don. They never left the building. They were here day and night planning how they could promote Marion City Schools and how to give our kids opportunities to make a difference. Don Wolfe, okay, you know, you can't tell Don that something won't work, or that you can't build something like that, or we can't possibly get that on and off the field in the required amount of time. Yeah, it's true. You can't tell Don that it is impossible to build a huge collapsible platform or a giant flag or a statue from PVC pipe and Joanne Fabric's clearance table, because it turns out he can. Yeah. Besides his work with the band, he used his talents for prom decorations for years. And one time he built a replica of a Victorian house in the Coliseum. He would turn that whole space into something like a movie. Don built musical sets at the Palace and school. He coordinated the popcorn parade and the Christmas parade. And of course, the Harding Band led Santa down the street. Don was also in charge of the yearbook. And a funny thing, when he was in charge of the yearbook, his picture never appeared in there. Yeah, true. Rick Baird has the biggest smile on his face all the time. Rick could be found at any time on any day giving lessons to students, and Rick would fix or find an instrument so another kid could join the band family, even if they had never played an instrument before. And leading by example, Rick continues to play and learn new instruments and musical skills. He models what he hopes our kids will go out and do, like playing in the community band, playing in the pit at the Palace, sharing his music at church and at concert in the park, and I actually wouldn't be surprised if I saw him playing on a street corner. Yeah. Rick has provided his talents to the Palace for years, in front of the stage, behind the baton, and has invited our kids to play in the pit so they could experience performing with the adults and see how music can be a part of your life forever. And now he works at the box office in the Palace. Rick and Don knew and understood that the band was about the present and the future. If they could teach kids that playing music is a lifetime gift, then they would be able to find a place to meet people and share their talents and make music forever. They taught them that music is an international language, that everyone should be included, and it takes a team to make beautiful music. That is why our kids continued to share their gift years later in many places. Rick and Don knew that the band needed to be a place where every kid was accepted, had a place and a purpose, and could be surrounded by a team of friends who would work together. They knew that our kids needed positive experiences where they could have fun, because for some of them, it was the only place they could find success. Whether you were an 8th grader or a senior, whether you were a great athlete or not, whether you were at the top of the class or not, you were a part of something special and you belonged to the family. It was a place where they were given opportunities and a second chance. And that second chance is what often saved them. They planned trips for the kids to do something they might otherwise never get to do, such as play in the parade at Disney World or at a professional football game. Every year, I watched kids cross the stage and get their diploma because of their experience in the band. It was the highlight of their high school years, and it is what brought them to school each day. They got to be on a winning team. Those thousands of students from the band have gone out and spread joy in the world and shared lessons they learned. They are working in jobs where they see someone who needs to be included, and they're including them. They are using their leadership skills to lead people in a positive way. They're giving someone a second chance, and they are taking on tasks that people think can't be done, and they're making them happen. Rick Baird and Don Wolfe, thank you for making the world a better place because of the qualities you exemplify and passed on to our kids who are spreading them around the world. You have changed lives and the world. Really, you have changed the world through our kids, and your legacy is one that will continue to touch others. You are Marion made, and we of Marion City Schools are proud to call you our own, and we love you. Thank you.
So you can announce your songs this time and be heard. You're welcome.
Next song we're doing is called Baja Breeze, and there's a story behind this song. One year, Stardusters graduated 14 seniors. Got the next year in, great kids, a little green, and I said, what can I get that they'll play? This was my solution. It was called Baja Breeze, simple little tune, but somehow it stuck around, and I think the band is still playing it. So it's very catchy. It's going to have a couple solos. I think Amy Swihart's playing a solo, and our most senior of alumni here today, Mr. Dave Haldeman, class of 63, yes, on the trombone. And he still plays a lot of jobs. He's playing music's a lifetime thing. You can play as long as you want. I still like David Haldeman, but Don Taylor has the solo. Swihart. Don. Hi, Daddy. Carol mentioned her son Steve, and this next song I actually purchased for Starduster so Steve could play it. It's a bass trombone feature, and many people after Steve had a chance to play it, and today Parker's going to play Making Whoopee.
That was really cool, wasn't it? You know, I'm going to throw down a challenge. Stardusters is probably one of the most meaningful things I've done in my lifetime. I will never forget it. Can we do this again? Seriously. maybe a fundraiser a year from now, or would you guys come eat dinner if we had a nice meal and we had this kind of entertainment? All right. I'm trying to think where we're at now here. We did set 2. So I guess it's time to talk about our world-class juggler. I didn't know if you knew that was your... We talked about our next speaker last night, Mr. Hartman and I, and he said that this guy was the starting quarterback. He was in marching band, trombone player, Stardusters, singers, musicals, and he wasn't just a participant, he was a leader and a motivator in every group that he participated in. So that's why we decided he was a world-class juggler. So if Sean Tyler could come up here and give us a little info.
I really appreciate that. Thank you, guys.
You're tall, Sean.
So I gotta put this up.
Yeah, put that up. We want to hear you.
How's that? Much better. Well, good evening, everyone. I'm truly blessed to be back home tonight to honor these 2 amazing people. I've been asked to speak about how much the structure, mentorship, and values that I learned from Mr. Baird and Mr. Wolfe helped me become, quote, a successful adult. Now, I don't know what your definition of success is, but I'm not entirely sure that I'm ready to assume that role of successful just yet. If I've learned anything from these 2 incredible men, it's that making mistakes, whether it be in music, sports, or life, and learning from them are what put you on the right path to success. The way that you go about your business when things get hard, the way that you show up for others, and more importantly, your willingness to be a great teammate. No 2 people represent this idea better than Rick Baird and Don Wolfe. I have 2 quick stories that I'll be sharing with you tonight. The first is about you, Mr. Wolfe, wherever you are. I know you're trying to hide. Yeah, he's over there. I'm not sure if you remember this, some of you might, but there was a marching band competition when I slipped in the mud on the very last set of the show and had to literally jump into my last position. I chuckled about it with friends, but deep down, I was mortified. Though it was such an insignificant moment in the show, I felt as though I let the team down. You, Mr. Wolfe, were the first person to come and check on me and also help me laugh it off. What you didn't know, and why this meant so much to me, is that I had hurt my foot pretty badly in the football game the night before, and I wasn't even sure if I was going to be able to march that next day. I was already in my head about what kind of teammate I would be by not marching. I never wanted any of my activities to interfere with the others if I could help it. Your laughter and your reassurance in that moment and many others in my high school journey are things that I have not properly given you thanks for. Whether it was working with me one-on-one for Panorama because I was playing catch-up, pulling me aside when you noticed I was struggling mentally during summer band camps, or even just having a great story about someone in my family that you taught when I needed it. You were there for me more than you realize, and I'm beyond grateful for you. Now, Mr. Baird, I could tell 100 stories dating back to 4th grade when you sent Cheyenne Carr and I to the office for horseplay to see Mr. Clark. But there's one memory I'll never forget. My senior year, the marching band and Stardusters were going to Florida, and while we were there, we earned the chance to perform at the Outback Bowl. And when we checked into the stadium, you took me to the field to watch that team up north in South Carolina warm up, and you told me how proud you were of all the things that I was able to do while here at Harding. I thanked you over and over again because you and I both know that without you, I wouldn't have been able to make that trip. There are many times throughout all my early years that you didn't allow people to shut me out or treat me differently for being as active as I chose to be, and I can't thank you enough for being simply you and making me feel like an extension of your already incredibly large family. Though I don't know all of your children personally, I can say confidently that Jeff is an awesome, fun older brother, Parker is a great baby brother, and Addie, well, she's Addie. The point I'm making is that I've been blessed to work amongst some of the greatest athletes and business people in the world at only 30 years old. As blessed as I am, without these two incredible men guiding me through pivotal points in my life, I might never have had the courage to continue to fight for and promote myself. As for being successful, I guess time will tell. Success to me is ultimately being a great teammate. Mr. Baird and Mr. Wolfe, there is no greater team on earth than you two. If I can be half the teammate that you both are to each other and for others, I will be fulfilled and successful by the end of it all. I love and respect you both, and I can't wait to see what's next in your journeys, both individually and as teammates. Thank you.
You ready to go? Yep.
I guess you already met David Halderman. He really is going to play a solo this time. This is Big Noise from Winnetka. It'll feature Kyle on the drums and David Halderman on the trombone. That's what I thought, but I was just going to roll with it.
I mean, he's the director, right? I mean, all right. Hey, Jake, hang on a second. I worked on this. I have a few words, just a couple. Well, 7. Passion, drive, energy, kind, patient, humble. Just a few words that come to mind about our next speaker. I thought those were kind of cool. It's been a real honor and loads of fun to work with what I refer to as our current torchbearer. And I say that because he is, in every sense of the word. So, take it away, Mr. Hartman.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you all so much for being here. It's a pleasure and a blessing to be up here and talking tonight. In the summer of 2012, I was fresh out of college looking for a band director job and had just informally accepted a position in the Toledo area. I thought my next step was set until a series of calls and texts changed everything. Rick Baird, Don Wolfe, and Carol Bebout were working behind the scenes. They were kind enough to take a chance on me, a young pup, and asked if I would consider rescinding my acceptance in Toledo. I had never heard of Marion, Ohio, but their enthusiasm, positivity, and charm won me over. By the next day, I had withdrawn from Toledo and said yes to Marion. Thank you. Looking back now, that decision led to everything. My wife, my children, and the community I now proudly call home. I've had other chances to leave, opportunities that made a lot of sense on paper, but I stayed because of them. Rick and Don didn't just hire me, they invested in me. They made me feel at home. A few notes about Rick. Rick's gentle, encouraging nature is perfectly balanced by a strong sense of his own beliefs. He's mastered the disappointed dad persona. No yelling, just a glare or a few well-placed words that made you instantly realize if you were wrong. I can remember in my first year teaching, I programmed a piece of music that was clearly too difficult for our group. Rick didn't criticize. He guided me gently towards my own self-discovery. And when things got tough that first year, he never stopped showing me he cared or believing in me. When I see his infamous handwritten Baird scratch, some of you have seen that today, on old sheet music, I smile. It meant he was going the extra mile for a student who lost their part, because he always went the extra mile for his students. Rick helped raise 8 incredible kids, 2 of whom I've had the privilege to teach. He modeled how to balance commitment to students with love for family. I did not truly appreciate that sacrifice until I became a dad myself. Now for a few words about Don. Don is the glue that holds everything together. His presence brings comfort and just enough worry to keep everybody on their toes. Even at 75, his mind still runs a half step ahead, always creating, organizing, or finding teachable moments. I can't imagine a Harding band without Mr. Wolfe's influence. Don took me under his wing like family. To this day, a 5-minute question sometimes turns into a 50-minute conversation where I most always learn something. When my kids visit the band room, he's often there too, opening snacks, pushing them around on carts, or cleaning up their inevitable toddler messes. He shows me and my kids that he cares. Don is also famous for the phrase, "Step into my office." These are heartfelt, usually unscripted moments where his instinct to educate beyond the music kicks in, through a life lesson, a story, and usually a good laugh. As Sean mentioned, they're a great team. They're shared impact. Rick and Don are humble men, and I know tonight probably makes them a little uncomfortable. We're sorry, but you most certainly deserve it. You didn't just build a program, you built a family and a legacy. I recently participated in the wedding of Brittany Lewis and Yuji Jones, both who have strong ties to the MCS bands. In the maid of honor speech, it was mentioned that the Harding Band is the reason both Lewis daughters met their spouses. That story isn't rare. In fact, I'm one of many who can say, my family would not exist without you. Rick and Don, you've changed lives, including mine, and none of this we will ever forget. Thank you both from the bottom of my heart.
I think I might need to cry for a few minutes. That's insane, isn't it? His family wouldn't exist. Wow. I have to take a couple of minutes here real quick just to thank some sponsors and just do a little bit of housekeeping. Hey, Mitch, are you backstage? Where are you? Where are you hiding? Well, I need his, something's not right here. What, did he disappear or something? Oh. This is my son, Mitch. This is what happens when you give a proud father the microphone. Fuzzy's Flowers is a business that my son Mitch bought during his senior year at Harding High School. And it was not an easy thing. So the flowers and everything that you see here, thank you, Mitch. I'm very proud of you. Graduate of the class of 2016. I'd also like to thank Cooper's Bowl, Mi Jalapeno Mexican Restaurant, Steve's Dakota Grill, Carol's Jewelers, Andrew's Pastries, and Peacock Water. So just needed to work that in since they gave us some money and made all of this possible tonight, and I don't want to forget them. You're up. I'm sure that you're up.
Thank you, sir. It was worth the wait. I firmly believe things happen for a reason. I graduated from Kent State in 1978. In July of that year, Peg and I got married, and I decided it was time to get a job because, and we wanted to stay close to home. So got a map. She's from Tiffin. I'm from the Akron area. We drew circles, and I applied to any place within that circle. Marion was not in the circles. But in 1967 and 68, with my mom and a carload of German Shepherds, we came to Marion at the Coliseum for the AKC dog shows there. I said, I've been in Marion, I'll send it in. And that's the one that hit. And here we are. And here we stayed. Okay, and Don was not my first partner in bands. I had two other directors that I assisted. Things were okay, but not heading completely where my dreams were. I thought maybe I would just stay at Edison Middle School and work on middle school teaching, raise my family, and not do all that marching band stuff. John Stewart came to me and said, we're thinking of hiring Mr. Wolfe. He was a science teacher, but he had stuff, he worked at Otterbein with the bands. I want to see if you two guys can get along. We're going to put you in a room, and if you can get along, you each have a job. We got along. The most creative man on this earth. What a pleasure to be on the ride with him. The journey in the last few weeks involved Randers talking to me, and I told her, once I decided, you're being pretty stupid, you should do that. And then calling Don on the phone and talking him off the ledge a couple times. And my wife talking to Don off the ledge, because this is not who we are. We really let the kids do the talking for us. For years and years, they are our vision. They made the vision come true. Now it's up to you to make sure the vision continues. So I don't know what the amount is, but I know I've been writing thank you notes like crazy to people that have donated the fund. And from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate what you're doing, and we got to make it go into the future now. So thank you. This was our last number with Dusters. It was sort of a tradition to play Birdland.
One more, two. You got one more?
Don't be in a hurry.
Well, I'm in a hurry. You got one more? All right, we'll bring it. Okay, so are we done with that? Okay, do we have who's going to draw that ticket? You have somebody that's going to draw it? Okay. Okay, now we're going to shuffle some things around real quick. Couple more sponsors to mention. The jersey, the Marion tradition, right? Urban Marketing and Modern Woodmen of America. And finally, we'd like to also thank Advanced Smiles from Marion. I've been looking forward to this next thing all night. It's a real quick fundraising opportunity. I've got Mr. Wolfe here. We're going to call it the Dollar Dance with Don. So get out your dollars. I think Bryce has a selection for us. He doesn't even know I'm talking about him. Isn't that classic Don? No clue. All right, it is 50-50 time. It appears the total is $296. I did not buy any tickets because I didn't want to win. All right, everybody get your cheaters and your bifocals on. 168274. 274. We had any takers on ticket 274? No? Good. We're going to keep the money. Thanks. 168274. What about them? Are we still doing it? Is it still? So the silent auction is still going, correct? So if there's something up here that you put your name on, you might want to check around and see if you're still winning. Also, while we're shuffling some things around, I work with an incredible group of people. I would like to take a second to, and I'm going to get in trouble for this, but I'm going to do it anyway. Kelly McKay, where are you? This was her idea. I cannot take credit for this idea. This was Kelly's idea. Kelly approached me and said, you know, we need to work with the Marion Community Foundation. Let's, you know, the President's Band Club is a 501c3, and that's what they do. And we thought, wow, that's a great idea. So she donated the deposit and made the account exist and come into existence. So thank you, Kelly, for your participation in all of this hootenanny. I also want to thank some people who are just as modest as Rick and Don, and they're going to get mad at me for doing it, but I'm going to do it anyway. Ray Andrews. A lot of the creativity on the table with the pillows is thanks to her. I think she also wrangled the jersey into being a corporate sponsor. Cheryl Palm. Where's Kim at? Okay, so I apologize in advance. I should have asked. Is it Lutz or Lutz? Lutz, okay. Did you guys enjoy the food? Let's thank Kim for that. Mary Franklin, Kathy Bell, Dave Claiborne, Meg Knickel, Jan Collins, Jessica Stage. Who am I forgetting, guys, besides Don and Carol for going through pictures and photos if any of you haven't seen them on the tables out front. So all of these people made all of this happen tonight, so thank you all. We really appreciate it. Mr. Wolfe, the stage is yours.
So I'm going to continue the story Rick said, which is absolutely incredible that they told us to go to the back rooms to even get along. We tell people this, no, they didn't do that. They did. So we collectively said, we don't want to be like every other band, we want to be different. So we decided our first game that we would play Dr. Moffat's song, The Orator of 1812. Not easy. So the first thing I did, we go out on 309 to the Ohio National Guard. How many howitzers do you have? Can you bring them to the high school on this date? And they said, let us check, but I think we can. Second thing, I had my father, who was a sergeant in the Army, collect with all the other parents who had rifles. We're talking about early 80s, in the end zone with rifles that they were going to shoot at a certain time. I got 4F gunpowder and spread it around pans, so if you took a torch to it, it looked like a big smoke and flash, and it looked like there was a war going on. I contacted all the churches in the area. When you hear the first volley of a cannon, you're supposed to ring the church bells for 10 minutes. Okay? So the kids heard all what was going on. They were very nervous. And Bill and the percussion, I took them to the stadium the Thursday before the game and said, you've got to do this. There's no backing out. You've got to know this music. You just have to do it. So everything took its place. When people used the cannons in 1812, they always practice. We couldn't do that. So we had a person on the 10-yard line with a flag. Foray with the flag, getting close, flag down, gun goes off. It worked, okay? So we did the song, at the beginning is fine, so forth. Then it builds up, and the first cannon goes off, and it was on time, the whole works. So as they heard the cannon, the church bell started to ring. And that's kind of the soft spot of the song. The second cue is for everyone else to start doing crazy things, okay? So we cued the second time, the cannon went off, and they were able to fire as many shots as they had to the end. So that happened. My father had the guns in the north end zone go off. I ran down the back yard lines with 15 pots that I kept lit with big torches going up in the air, the whole works. And at the very end, 10 minutes is a long time, while the crowd was cheering and the field was being cleared of all the smoke, all the church bells of the town were ringing. We made a pretty good impression the first time out, okay? How do you top that? We did the second year. We had the University of Purdue with all 350 people and the Harding Band on the field with the cannons, with the guns, with the smudge parts, and Mr. Hartman's not going to like this, and that big, beautiful bass drum from Purdue, okay? We did the whole thing over again. Now, everyone knew Purdue was coming, and the old away stands were much bigger than the stands we have now. It was estimated that 10,000 people were at that game. We brought in bleachers on the end zones, the whole works. We topped it on the second year. So we had a pretty good start. We made a very good choice, and it proved to be very, very successful. And Rick and I, from the very beginning, have worked as a team and continue to do so. One of the first things we both, Rick and I, did when we came to the Harding Band program was to say we wanted to travel. And the first year we went to the Peach Bowl. We weren't a competitive band yet. We took 1 year off, but we did that. We have gone to 14 bowl games so far. We have been grand champions of 8 of those 14. This year, the band will take their 15th trip, and I'm not sure there's very many schools in this country have taken as many trips and done as well as we have. There was one problem one year. It was in Atlanta. Next to Rick in my room were some really rambunctious juniors and senior guys. They kept making noise and being out in the hall. We wanted to go to sleep. So I took a page from my father, who was a camp counselor, took his mattress out, which I didn't do, and pillow, and slept in front of the room. So that seemed to calm things down. Everything seemed to be okay. I fell asleep. All of a sudden, I heard the ding of the elevator and the squawk boxes of the emergency squad coming, rolling me over, and asking if I was okay. Well, I sit there go, yeah, I just fell asleep. I'm here. Da, 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 da. I heard snickering on the other side of the door. I put it together what had happened. Now, to put more injury on it, our senior trumpet player, John Behringer, came out in his underwear with his mother's nightgown over it, asking if he's okay. Is he going to survive? What's wrong? Not even claiming he knows me. This is our first trip. I had a lot to overcome to have the confidence to go back to the second one. So there are many things that happen on these trips that, let's say, are unpredictable. Our next song is a tradition that the band has played for many years in parades. It's Battle Hymn of the Republic. We've not used it in recent years, but it goes back and have a long, long tradition. And so it's the song Battle Hymn of the Republic. some of the songs we play have been played for a long time by the band. It's kind of traditional. Sometimes they're out of print, sometimes we've lost parts. So this is my score to the next song. I think I remember it, but I hope.
Just keep going, and then we've got a plan. We're good. Do you want to do the video and then do the last song? Okay. Let's do the video. Yeah, let's do the video. Okay. All right. Like I'm going to argue with Don Wolfe. I had a dream when I was in high school. The show MacGyver was actually inspired by Don Wolfe. but they decided to make it about an international spy or something instead of a guy that does, musical sets. And, Don showed me a 2x4 once, and he said it was a masterpiece. And I said, "What do you mean? It's a board." And he looked at me and he said, "It used to be round." All right. So we're going to backtrack just a little bit because we missed something. We've got a video for someone that couldn't be here but wanted to say some words. This is from Josh Huff, who graduated in 2000, holds master's degree from Indiana Wesleyan University, and is a longtime music educator. So just so everybody understands, because we have this giant 500-pound screen that's going to crush every musician in the second row, we're only going to use the flat screens on the walls, but you will be able to hear. All right. Here.
Greetings from Europe. My name is Joshua Huff, and I am a proud alum from the class of 2000. I wish I could be there with you all today to celebrate both Mr. Baird and Mr. Wolfe, but alas, I'm on tour with the Indiana Ambassadors of Music, which hopefully is a good enough excuse for my absence. Currently, I'm a high school band director in Marion, Indiana. I teach because of these two gentlemen. I teach because they impacted me in ways that not many people know about. So if you allow me just a few seconds of your time to just personally thank them, I would appreciate it. Mr. Wolfe, thank you for showing us that band truly is a form of pageantry arts. Your creativity, your design, your attention to the smallest detail gave us so many opportunities for success. You set us up to be both visually and effect-wise successful in every way imaginable. And I thank you for embedding that in me nearly 30 years ago. You were ahead of your time. But I think about all you taught us when planning my marching band shows. Maybe I could find a way to use some of those creative props that we had. I know most of them don't exist, but you did create some really awesome props. Mr. Baird, I could go on for the next several hours about your impact on both my personal and my professional life. When I went through some hard times in high school, you were there. When things looked bleak, you were there and you sacrificed so that I could be prepared for college. When my first year of teaching became more than I could bear, you sent an email reminding me that the most important part of my job wasn't the parents. It wasn't the angry parents. It wasn't even the happy parents. It wasn't the administration. The most important part of my job was the young people that walked in there every day. In my personal life that same year took a couple major hits. That included the loss of my father. You were there, providing a hug, and reminding me that he, my dad, would be proud of me and encouraging me to work through the grief by allowing the music to speak for me. The highlight of my career, though, was the day you drove from Ohio to Indiana. You drove to spend an afternoon with my students. I'll never forget the next day. The next school day, one young man came running up to me and he said, "Mr. Huff, he must have been the coolest band director you had. He taught us so much about music, but more about life. You taught them the same attributes about life that you guys taught us. Be kind to one another. Take care of those around you. And teamwork. As a matter of fact, it's the same attributes that you taught in Marion, Ohio, that I teach in Marion, Indiana. While the wording of what we do is different, the concepts are the same. Work hard, commit to each other, and dedicate yourself to the cause. It's these foundations, these attributes, that have set me and so many of my classmates and those that came before me and those that have come after me. They set us up for success in life. Behind me is the Swiss Alps. I'm in the Swiss Alps, a kid from Marion, Ohio, on tour with music students. I'm here because of the foundation that you guys gave us. Because you saw something in a town, and because you worked to build something unique, and you provided us with the experiences we may never have had you not agreed to work together. For you are the perfect pair. And while you will say we had great students, supportive parents, and a community that wanted us to be great, and those are all keys to success, all of those people would say the same thing that I'm about to say. We had the best teachers. So your legacy lives on, not just in this endowment, but it lives on in the lives of us, your students, and it lives on in the people that we come in contact with. But we're not just celebrating Mr. Baird and Mr. Wolfe. We're celebrating the Baird family as well. So one last thing, I think I can speak from experience given the position I currently hold. I'm a dad and a husband, and I know that you sacrificed. And I just want you to know that we thank you for that sacrifice. The sacrifice that kept your dad at school giving lessons before and after school. The sacrifice that allowed us to be successful in giving up your weekends with him so that we could have a quality music education. As a band director, husband, and dad, I understand that sacrifice. And I want you all to know that not only do we love and appreciate Mr. Baird and Mr. Wolfe, but we appreciate and love all of you. Thank you for all you have done for us, Mr. Baird and Mr. Wolfe, and your family, and for providing a lifetime of memories for all of us from Marion, Ohio. Congratulations on this much-deserved and well-earned day of recognition.
So I went out on a limb and I contacted this next, well, I asked to have this person contact me because he's incredibly hard and challenging to get a hold of. This is not on the program. This is a surprise. I'd like to introduce a graduate of Harding named Scott O'Neill. Scott is, or Scotty as I used to call him, he is the music director and conductor for the Denver Philharmonic Orchestra. He has worked as a music arranger with Disney, Wu-Tang Clan, Tenacious D, yeah, Jack Black, that Tenacious D, and some weird guy named Al Yankovic. So, we're going to let Scotty give you guys a quick note here.
Hi, I'm Scott O'Neill. I was one of the drum majors for the marching band back in the 1980s. That's painful to say. I think it's hard enough to really see things for what they are, really perceive reality. It's probably even harder to see the things that led up to that, but it's hardest to imagine how things had been different if something in the past had changed. But I think I can say unequivocally that if I had not been in marching band and had the experience of being a drum major, I certainly wouldn't have met George Park's Drum Major Academy. I wouldn't have learned all these experiences about leadership. Now I'm working with high school students teaching about leadership, but I also work with a group called Music Paradigm, where I actually do leadership training for CEOs. And yeah, I probably would have found my way in the classical music world, but I would be a fundamentally different person, and I certainly wouldn't be doing the leadership training that I am now. And that's one of the most rewarding parts of my life. And I'll also say, yeah, this is definitely true. If Mr. Baird and Mr. Wolfe hadn't taken over the band, I probably wouldn't have been in marching band at all. So for that and for all the things that came after it, Mr. Wolfe, Mr. Baird, on my behalf, but I know I'm not the only one, for everyone whose lives you made such a huge difference in, from the bottom of my heart, thank you.
So this next speaker came all the way from New Jersey to be with us tonight, but he didn't sacrifice his birthday like his little sister did. So we should sing to Addie, but she would kill me, so she's small, but she's evil. So this next speaker is not only a product of our music program, but literally a product of Rick and Peggy Baird. If only they had a TV in their bedroom. Rob Baird, you're up.
Hi, everybody. I'm Rob Baird, and for context, for those of you who don't know me, I'm number 4. First, before I get started, I want to give a deep, heartfelt thank you to everybody who made this possible today. The whole thing started as one message to Mr. Hartman, and he just turned it into all of this. And I can't name all the people who put time and effort and energy into making it happen, but anybody who is part of this, from the bottom of my heart and from my family, thank you. So I have the honor today of talking to all of you about my dad and Mr. Wolfe. Where are you? Hiding? Oh. Who I've always affectionately known as Uncle Don. Uncle Donald sometimes. And I originally wrote that I don't think I can really add much that hasn't been said about their character. It's what's right here. But then my new friend over here, David Southward, said something to me earlier. He said, I remember you. You were about this big. And I came to visit your family in your house in Fair Park. And the reason I was there is because I was at Edison and I was going to quit the band. And your dad told me that wasn't happening, and he brought me to your house and gave me private lessons so that I wouldn't leave the band. And that changed my life. I think that there are many people in this room who could tell me stories about my dad and Uncle Donald that changed their life. So, like I said, I didn't plan on telling you that, but David, thank you for sharing that with me. So, as you all know, my dad and Mr. Wolfe, they're kind, they're devoted, they're true artists and leaders, and mentors. I think you've seen that from all the people who have spoken here today. But y'all already know that. So I guess what I can add is to give you a more intimate look into what it was like growing up with my dad and Uncle Don and sharing the Baird family with the band family. Because to them, it was one and the same. So as I start to talk about my experience in my family, there's one person whose name hasn't been mentioned tonight, and I'd be remiss not to mention, that's also responsible for everybody being here tonight, and that is my saint of a mother, Peg Baird. While my dad was spending hours in the band room giving private lessons, she was raising 7 well-adjusted children and Parker. He's the baby. Gotta make fun of him. She drove us to practices and spent more time watching bad baseball at Lincoln Park than any parent should have to. And she made sure we always ate together. And when my dad came home, she was his rock, the counterpoint to his melody. We love you, Mom. Now, my earliest memories of Uncle Don are of him. He's already told me like 3 times I'm not allowed to roast him. My earliest memories of Uncle Don are of him coming over to our house, riling all of us up, abruptly leaving, and letting my parents deal with the wreckage. I remember rubbing his bald spot and teasing him. So if you needed any more convincing that karma exists, he's always been a blast to be around, a true member of our family, and I'm glad that he's always been a member of our family. Now, for my dad. The best compliment I can give my dad is that despite all the hours and dedication it took to build this program, he's always managed to have a special relationship with each of his kids. He found time for long car rides to take me to Cleveland baseball games and made me suffer the Air and Space Museum with him. And on those car rides, I learned I could talk to him about anything, but mostly we told bad jokes and quoted Mel Brooks movies. Those car rides were where I fell in love with the Beatles, and I know that each of my siblings have their own special experiences. And through osmosis, I learned how to be the man, father, and educator I aspire to be. He also found time with us because he always dragged one of us to Lane Hall, the band room at the old high school that was named after George Lane. Whether it was for evening of private lessons or pep band or summer band camp. And I asked him if he did this because he wanted to spend time with us, and he said, yeah, but it was mostly because your mom told me I had to take one of you to save her sanity. For that reason, I spent a lot of time hanging out in Lane Hall and around the practice field. I thought that the drumline were the coolest guys around, and they liked to give a 6-year-old me sour warheads and laugh at the faces I made. I tell you this to say that the Bairds quite literally grew up in the band room and on the practice field, which is way cooler now, by the way. They have that like tall tower, and we had like this rickety old cart that Rick Gilbert drove around, and every field commander, I guarantee you, feared for their life while they bounced up and down on that. Kyle, am I wrong? No? No. Don, do you go up on that tower? Because I remember you were like scared to go on the rickety cart. And that was like too tall. Do you? Sometimes? Okay. Anyway, I digress. So, sifting through all these memories made me reflect on those places where I grew up and what they represent. So, if you'll indulge some metaphors. To me, the practice field is a playground. We spend countless hours in the hot sun deciphering Mr. Wolfe's hand-scrawled drill and running it over and over again. But along the way, we laugh, we goof off, and we find best friends. If you met a best friend on the practice field that you'll remember forever, raise your hand. And the practice field is a forge for new leaders. Students walk onto it as timid freshmen and transform into role models and section leaders and field commanders. The band room, on the other hand, is a sanctuary. I don't know if you're aware of this, but bandos sometimes aren't considered the coolest cats around. But we do have our place to hang out and be our true selves. I remember so many kids hanging out in Lane Hall before school, and not only us bandos, but also our Muggle friends. because they knew that the invite was always open and they were always safe. We spend God knows how many hours in that sanctuary, not because it's where we have to be, but because it's where we want to be. It can be a place of pure joy, elation, like you might feel when you parade into it behind Mr. Wolfe raising a grand champion trophy in the air. It's a place we've grieved and comforted one another, and it's a place that defines love and devotion. You spend hours upon hours upon hours grinding away in the band room because you care deeply about the people you're with, and you want to keep getting better and better and better because the next trip to state is within reach, and you just have to chase it. And speaking of love and devotion, many of the folks in this room fell in love for the first time in the band room. I mean, at least dozens of bandos have found a love that started in the band room and followed a one-way road to forever. So, let's try this game again. If you fell in love for the first time in the band room, raise your hand. If you're afraid to raise your hand because your forever partner is here and they're not that first love, blink twice. So, when I think about the qualities of these places, I think it's fitting that Mr. Wolfe's domain is the practice field, and my dad's domain is the band room. There's something poetic about it. They're the true embodiment of the qualities of them. Mr. Wolfe is creative, he is a mentor and a leader, he's fun, and he defined the practice field. And my dad is an avatar of safety, of joy, of devotion, and love. So what I'm about to reveal to everyone shouldn't come as a big surprise. Today, we're honored and proud to tell you, Dad and Mr. Wolfe, that generations of students to come will meet their best friend, grind away in the mud or hot sun, and grow into better versions of themselves in the shadow of Wolfe Tower. And they'll celebrate, play too many scales, annoy Mr. Hartman by talking too much, and fall in love in the sanctuary of Baird Hall. You're both too humble by half to ever aspire to an honor like this. Knowing the two of you, you're probably uncomfortable with the way we've lionized you tonight. But this dedication is the least you deserve. And we can't take it back now anyway because these plaques And we can't take it back now anyway, because these plaques have already been made, and I think they're outside the return policy. We're all here today, from near and far, because you touched our lives and changed us for the better, and for that, today, we celebrate you and your legacy. Thank you. We love you.
Miss Bryce, I know this was hard on these guys because, like I said, legendarily modest. And we are legendarily grateful for both of you and everything that you've done. This concludes our evening. Everybody get the heck out. Thank you all very much for being here tonight. Thank you.